Welcome to the Tambellini Group's New Normal in Higher Education. I'm Raechelle Clemmons, Vice President of Industry Relations at the Tambellini Group. And joining me here today is Param Bedi, Vice President for Library and Information Technology at Bucknell University. Welcome, Param.
Thank you, Ray. Thanks for having me.
It's really great for you to be here. So, Param, we're here in early September now. Most colleges and universities have kicked off their fall semester at this point, and by all accounts, things are pretty different this fall than they have been in the past because of this ongoing COVID-19 pandemic. Not only is it really different, but it also seems like things are changing almost on a daily basis. Is that kind of an accurate assessment?
It is, and so at Bucknell, we are in week 4 of classes, and we had a meeting early today, and the president has a countdown till when students are going to be here till, and 72 days to go. So we still have a long way to go till students are on campus, and once they go back after Thanksgiving break, they're going to do the last their finals and a week online in remote instruction, but. So we've been kind of planning for this new normal, whatever, if you even can call it that, since spring break, right? We send, it was during spring break when we decided to have the remainder of the spring semester as remote instruction.
Sure.
And sometimes it seems like that decision was just yesterday, and sometimes it seemed like I had a full hair. I had hair when that happened. So
my hair was certainly a lot shorter when that
right.
happened.
Yeah. And it's just a blur, right? I mean, it's just a blur as to, but I am in awe as to the amount of work that has gone into opening the university for our students. And I'm sure that's the case with every institution around the country, around the globe, and for that matter.
Sure. Well, I'm curious to dive into that a little bit. So
sure.
Tell me what's happening because it just sounds like a lot. I mean, it's so fascinating. So tell me what's happening on college and university campuses, right now, and what does that experience look like that's different than maybe what students, who came in fall of last year experience? Like, what's a day in the life on a campus right now?
I think for students, it is different, right? I have a son who's a sophomore in college, so I hear from him too everything that's different at the institution that he's at. But I'm just going to back up a little bit before I get to your
Sure.
question. Is really kind of lay out everything that we had to kind of go through to get to this space, and then get to your question as to what's different. So in early summer, so the president kind of formed these teams to kind of really look at, okay, can we safely even open the campus? It wasn't that we're going to open, but, and there were faculty and staff and administrators on each of these groups looking at, there was one that was just focused on technology on campus, from a teaching and learning perspective and also from a student experience perspective. Obviously, there was an academic group I was part of as well, which was led by the provost. There was a health and safety, community relations, student engagement. So there were multiple groups that were kind of assembled, and then all these were kind of coordinated by a larger group. But the amount of work that kind of went into looking at every little detail of what we need to do and what we need to change if we do decide to open. What are the changes that we need to make? That we need to make sure that our students, we can safely bring our students back to campus, right?
Sure.
And because at the end of the day, health and safety was the number one priority. And I don't think anybody was going to compromise on that. And I think that's kind of really led us to where we are today, the amount of work that went over the summer and really looking at every aspect. And we missed some things. I mean, nobody can, and I joke around with my team, and there is no playbook for this, right? And so it's
Right.
not that we can kind of look at somebody and say, okay, what are we going to do? And somebody just asked me yesterday, did you hire a consultant for this? I said, well, I'm not sure a consultant would have known any more than we did. And
Right.
I mean, consultants are popping up left and right, but I mean, I'm not sure how much they would bring to the table without having the institutional knowledge, without understanding Bucknell, without understanding our students, our faculty, and our staff. So uh, this for the students, it is quite different. And one of
So
the
I see
things that
pictures about, like temperature scan guns and masks. I mean, is that what the
so
experience is?
masking, absolutely, students have to wear a mask, socially distance, classrooms are reconfigured. Um, the other thing that we are doing at Bucknell is we're testing our students every 10 days.
10 days. Okay.
Um, and so that's a big part of the student, and they have to do a daily symptom check. and uh, and I really kind of give our student affairs division credit. So what they've done is to kind of, because this is all new for students, right? I mean, and
Right.
really kind of encourage. They've have formed what are called My Herd teams. So faculty and staff volunteered to uh, kind of be leaders, these My Herd leaders, which I am as well. I have students, so I meet with them regularly, reminding them to do the COVID test, make sure they're doing the symptom check, and just kind of checking in on them and making sure how they're doing. And it's been great because even the students that I have in my group are mostly juniors and seniors. So it's not, but think about the first year students. I mean, this is the first college experience. And I think
Right.
for them, it was really kind of a way for having another connection
Yeah.
to somebody on campus who's familiar with the campus. And so for students, even the dining is different, right? They can't just go to the dining hall and sit down and have a meal.
So is it like app based? You kind of pick what you want and then it's either ready for pickup or delivery? Is that how
It
that
is
works?
most we don't have an app, but students can we have the same meal and we're offering in different areas. They can go and pack it up and take it with them. And also, so that's kind of so that's a different experience for them. And when they kind of in the library, we've actually reconfigured all the furniture in the library so there are only 2 chairs to every table. There used to be 4, sometimes 6.
Right.
And it was interesting because we worked with the health and safety team to see how best to configure the furniture. And I wouldn't have thought of it, but they recommended that 2 chairs at each table should be facing in the same direction. So even though the
Oh,
students are next to each other, at least they're not breathing in on each other. They're kind of,
right.
and so these little things we have all our service desks in the library, our technology support, our equipment desk, our library services, and the technology desk and equipment desk are by appointments only. My students used to be able to walk up and ask questions, but now faculty,
Right.
they have to make an appointment to go there. And these, just the little things, that details that we had to kind of really, from a process perspective,
Yeah.
engage with.
So tell me about so I know you have a merged organization, but I'm really
Right.
curious because our audience is primarily IT leaders. Tell me about the role that IT played in this and how the IT role in the IT department. I mean, you talked about service by appointment only. I've heard about plexiglass screens, right?
Yeah.
So how is this, how does IT look different? I guess two questions. What role did you all play in sort of the preparations, and also how do you look different than maybe you did in the past as well?
So I think so. In my role, I mean, I've been at Bucknell for over 12 years, so I don't think about it as library and IT. I think
Right.
I just think of it as a single division. And the way I kind of phrase things, we are supporting academics and we are supporting the enterprise side.
Okay.
And when I think about supporting the academics, I could have a software developer, a software engineer working with faculty. that's supporting academics. So I don't think of that as IT supporting I mean, so I think that's kind of
Right.
helped me think through and shape the organization in ways that I think not a place that's not merged is sometimes they have a tough time kind of wrapping their head around. Okay, what does that mean?
Sure.
Because we're just not supporting the network and PCs and Macs and iPhones and iPads, but it's really kind of how we've structured and engaged with the faculty over the summer to be ready for the fall. I think that's been a real success story at Bucknell, and it just wasn't just my division. It was the Teaching and Learning Center.
Right.
It was my team kind of working with faculty throughout the summer, starting in May, for our summer classes, which were fully online, by the way, because at that time, our governor's orders were not, we couldn't open the campus up. So
Okay.
we had to order, we couldn't bring students back. And so starting back in May, just the collaborations that happened across campus, so the Teaching and Learning Center and Library and Information Technology teams we actually reached about 80% of our faculty over the summer, which is incredible.
Wow, that is an
with,
astounding number.
It is, and we have 400 plus faculty.
Yeah.
And kind of really working with them and wherever they wanted to whatever they wanted to work on, whether it be if we have a number of faculty who are teaching remotely this semester as well.
Okay.
And working with them to kind of transition their classes to for remote instruction. We had some faculty that are doing some blended, some hybrid teaching. So working with them, we have some faculty that are teaching in person, but have students who are remote. We have 10%,
Okay.
about a little over 300 students that are studying remotely this semester. So we had to look at every little detail and work with faculty, and then equip 100 plus classrooms with technologies that can enable remote instruction and remote learning, right? And so
And some
think about
combination, right?
it's a
In person
combination,
plus combination plus, yeah.
because we have classes that our students are remote, and so they need to, if faculty is teaching at 10 o'clock in the morning, the students are attending remotely that class at 10 o'clock in the morning. But we had to put technology in the rooms so that the students could participate in a meaningful way.
So I think
Uh,
about my past in creating like classroom standards. And then I think, and I think hear about what you and other institutions are doing now. And I guess I wonder how much of this is temporary, or does this become the way that classrooms are designed in the
right,
future? And not just for classrooms, but
right.
temperature scans or health checks upon entry to the university. Like, how much of this is going to be a permanent part of our institutions moving forward, and how much do you think we'll just be like, that was COVID and we're over that now?
Right. So I hope the temperature scan and the testing is temporary. I really do. I mean, but from an infrastructure and technology perspective, I think this is here to stay because, and it's funny, Ray, you asked that question because about a half a dozen faculty have already asked me that question. I hope you're not going to take this away when COVID is over, because I think
Nice.
faculty are now realizing how differently they can teach and engage with the students
Sure.
with the technologies that we made available over the summer to them. And so I think that's kind of going to be a real shift, is how do institutionally, because Bucknell is a residential institution, all our students are on campus, but this semester they're not. So what does that mean 2 years from now or 3 years from now?
Right. Well, that's my question, right? Is
Is
Bucknell going to fundamentally change
I don't
because
think
of,
Bucknell is going to fundamentally change as a residential institution, but I think it will create opportunities for us to do things differently. I think it's going to allow us to do things over the summer or over breaks, or allow students, think about it, because we have students who are studying abroad. I mean, and sometimes they can't go because they have some requirements they need to fill here. Well, they can join in from wherever they are in London or Brazil or New Delhi, they can join in a class. If there's just one class they want to participate in at Bucknell, they can do that now, right? Because we
Yeah.
have the infrastructure. And I think from that perspective, it's really going to open up opportunities for our students, which we haven't even thought about yet, actually. So those are the things, or over the summer when we have first year students coming before they come to campus. What are the things now that we can do with them, um, and really kind of engage with them before they step foot on campus to start the semester?
Right. Sure.
And I think those are the things, and collaboration among faculty. That's the other piece that is, I think, going to really be different, because I think I'm just thinking about faculty co-teaching classes in a very different way because of the technologies that we have available. So they don't all need to be in the same room at the same time teaching the students that are in front of them.
Yeah.
And I think those are the things that I think we need to really kind of pay attention to, and really kind of see, okay, what is going to fundamentally change the student experience in a positive way.
Yeah. So
Um,
as you're, go ahead. Sorry, didn't
and
mean to
no,
cut you off.
so I think that's what I am. The small group of us that are kind of starting those conversations on campus. Okay, let's look at everything that we've done, and let's look at everything and how faculty are doing things and how students are learning.
Sure.
Let's take the best parts of those and try to institutionalize those things.
Yeah, that makes sense. So as you're thinking about preparing for that future, right? Because so much of this was really driven by what you needed to do to get to fall, right? Or what you needed
Right.
to do to respond to spring. So as you're thinking about now, like, wow, this has opened up all these possibilities. What can you and other CIOs start doing to set your institution up for success? And I know you've talked to me a little bit in the past about you have a very cloud first, cloud centric strategy, which institutions were already thinking about, IT leaders were already thinking about. But does that take on any sort of new meaning or importance in light of this COVID experience?
Absolutely, yes. Because I think looking back at how we had to kind of shift back in March, I think because of our cloud strategy that we adopted over the last number of years, we didn't, I mean, from a technology infrastructure perspective, we didn't even have to do much, right? I mean, because we had the things in place already for people to work remotely, for people to um, teach remotely, for students to learn remotely. So there are a few things that we had to make changes over the summer, um, and but overall, I think because of the things that we had planned for over the last 4 or 5 years, we were it kind of really helped us with, so we could kind of focus on what's going to really make a difference in teaching and learning, rather than focusing on I need to upgrade my banner, I need to upgrade my pick your ERP system on campus,
Your phone
I,
system.
my phone system, and all those things. We didn't really have to think about those
Right.
because that was hosted in the cloud. It was not hitting the campus infrastructure. I've talked to a number of colleagues, and they had some challenges because of the bottleneck of just the network infrastructure on campus, because everything they had was in the data centers, and they just could not keep up with the traffic.
Right.
And
Yeah.
and and actually, we did some benchmarking when all the students went home. Our traffic was actually much lower than it is when the students are here, because I mean, students were not really hitting many of the systems on campus anyway. So
And
I
they
think
weren't
that
streaming all their Netflix. So,
no,
not from your
right,
network.
right. And they were not hitting any of the major systems that are sitting in our data centers, because they're not in our data centers anymore.
Yeah. Yeah. And we definitely heard some horror stories about locally hosted LMSs still, right? Those folks who hadn't moved their LMSs really
Right.
took a hit.
Yeah. And actually, that's a great point, because that was one of the last systems that was still on in our data centers back in March, in April.
Oh,
So
wow.
we were already planning to move it to AWS over the summer, but and we did in July. It is now, so we can scale it, do what we need to, because and uh, we kind of felt. I mean, the CPU was running up to 80-90% at times. And the staff did a great job to manage that and kind of keep an eye on it 24/7. But that was a little nerve-wracking. I mean, looking at those numbers, okay, and so that was kind of a relief when we could do that, make that shift over the summer. And now it's still getting a lot of usage and traffic. I mean, with faculty teaching remotely, students, and faculty using Moodle a lot more than they were using it back in January. So,
Yeah.
but now we can scale it up, we can scale it down, we can really do things that were not possible just 2 months ago.
So aside from cloud strategy, any last thoughts or things that you think you or your colleagues should be thinking about as you're really thinking about preparing for this blended new normal future after the immediate crisis is over?
So one of the things I think we not often neglect in situations like this is our staff, right? We focus a lot on the technology side, but in my mind, technology will only get you so far, unless you have a staff that really understands how an engineering class can use Moodle, or a theater and dance class. How is that going to go if the faculty is teaching remotely, or if we have remote students? Right. And actually, that we found that to be the case, Ray, because we engaged with a consulting instructional design firm to kind of augment our own staff. And at the end of the day, I think we learned that, I mean, most folks can kind of do the standard things that are available to us. But once we started getting to, okay, how would the music classes work? How would theater and dance work? Yeah. How would art and art history work? I think that's where we are finding that just kind of really engaging with the departments and staff really kind of trying to understand the needs in ways. And I think that's what has been part of some of the success at Bucknell, is because we spend a lot of time with the faculty in those areas, in the departments, and understanding those needs. And I'm sure we missed a lot of things as well. And we're still learning every day. But I think spending the summer doing some of those things really kind of is paying off now, because we have a much better understanding of how our faculty in theater and dance teach. Right. And not just kind of saying, okay, here's a projector, here's a camera, just do what you need to do. And really kind of engaging with the academics was the key to success for us. And again, going back to where I started this comment, was the staffing. I think you have to have the staff really kind of engaged in ways that is different. So the other outcome that we found in my division was that staff who really never worked together before are now working more closely than ever, and bringing different expertise into the equation to work with the department, to work with the faculty member, to try to solve a problem. And I think that's been the most heartening thing for me in all this, is how the teams have come together and are working together like never before. I mean, wow. It is amazing. I mean, we use Slack for our internal communication, and I follow that Slack, and people who are responding to things which are totally not in the domain, but really kind of, oh, I saw this with this faculty. It's just amazing. And I think that's why I want to kind of put the staff and the teams first before the technology, because they are the ones who kind of really kind of putting all the puzzle pieces together and making things happen on campus.
Okay, so I'm hearing about a very hybrid, very collaborative, very academically centered and IT and academically integrated post-COVID campus, which really excites me. That sounds like a great place to be.
Right. I mean, I think at the end of the day, we are here for the academics, right? Everything else is on the outside in my mind. And I think that's where we need to focus on. And that's what I've been telling my team. That's what we need to, that's what a success is.
Excellent.
And I think that's where we're going to make a difference. And that's why the students wanted to come back, because, and that's why the students are here. And we need to do everything we can to make it an excellent experience for them.
Well, Param, thank you so much for sharing your insights and your experience with me today. And good luck to you on the next, what did you say, 72 days?
72 days.
72
Yeah.
days. We'll see you next time on the new
Okay.
normal.
Thanks so much, Ray. Thanks for having me. Bye-bye.
Thank you. Bye.